All right, welcome back to Speak Life. I'm here and I'm excited today. I am getting wisdom, education, and knowledge from my man James Keys, who is an American businessman and entrepreneur, a philanthropist. He's known for his leadership in retail and entertainment industries. This man has graduated cum laude from the College of Holy Cross, later earned an MBA from the Columbia Business School. Former CEO of Blockbuster and 7-Eleven. You can't run those companies unless you're a killer. The founder of Education is Freedom Foundation, which I'm very interested to hear more about. Speaker, author of the book Education is Freedom, and in our short time communicating, James, learning a little bit about who you are and how important this education topic is to you. A lot of people would say education's important. I think the way you write it, actually, you're saying it differently than other people because it's not glazed. You could tell it's DNA based. You could tell it rips from your pores. And I want to get into that. But before I do that, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for jumping on with me. Absolutely. And I want to talk a little bit about your background before we get into anything. You just kind of enlighten us, what made you the man you are today? What broke in life? What past did you shoot out of to kind of get some of this foundation of James Keys?
So, Mark, I live a blessed life. I truly do believe that. And I don't think it's anything that I did necessarily. I don't know. I just took a different path than many people take. And mine was one of recognition that the more I learned, the more I could do. And I took that very seriously from the time I was a kid. I pulled myself out of a situation of, I didn't know it at the time, but pretty severe poverty, and was able to create a life for myself that I describe today as a life of adventure. I mean, literally every day I wake up and I can't wait to see what's going to happen today because every day presents a new opportunity and a new adventure for me.
That's amazing. And again, you can tell it's authentic. And so when you think about some of the paths you've journeyed, right? A master's in business at Columbia, and how that kind of maybe, was that pre-CEO or was that post?
Pre-CEO, yeah.
So what led up to that journey? The idea that, you were working inside of corporate America, you were working inside companies, you were making things happen. Someone deemed it necessary to have you run their company. Where did that journey start?
Journey really started, I'll take you back to my first business experience literally was McDonald's.
Ah.
I was trying to make enough money to be able to go to school and flipping burgers and cleaning the parking lot and doing all the other things you have to do as a part-time employee at McDonald's.
Crazy important.
And I discovered that the more I learned at McDonald's, the more I could do, and literally just asking questions. How do you do the payroll? How do you do the night shift? And I ended up being made a shift manager, which is not a big deal, but it was a big deal for me at like 16 and a half years old to be able to be responsible for a team of people and run a shift, the night shift that nobody else wanted to work, of course. But it was a great experience. And it taught me the opportunity to differentiate myself in the workplace. And it taught me the importance of learning, because the more I learned about McDonald's, the more opportunity I had, to the point that they tried to talk me out of going to college. They just said, "Hey, Hamburger U is the place for you." I thought about it. I gave it some pretty serious consideration, but I think I did okay in spite of turning down the opportunity.
So it started at McDonald's, and it was your desire, I guess, to learn every facet of that business. Yes. And from that desire, it led to other desires in business. Did you always consider yourself a business-minded individual?
I did not see myself as a business person
Wow.
at all. And much of that, Mark, comes from the lack of exposure to business. I had no role models. I had no people that I could point to that were running businesses to say, I want to do that someday. I want to be a CEO someday. In fact, it was just the opposite. My perception of business was not good. It was, those were the factories, those were the, the guys running businesses in a small community. I just didn't have any attraction to that at all. And what I thought I would do is go down a professional path, maybe be a doctor, be a lawyer,
Okay.
strictly because I had no exposure to anything.
It makes sense, as you're growing up, the journey, you're trying to figure it out, kind of move from thing to thing, and eventually you stumble upon your calling. Do you remember that moment?
I don't. In terms of calling, in terms of where I want to go with my life.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, like you ran two very large businesses. You know what I'm saying? Like you ran two very large businesses. When you were running those companies, did you love it? Was it something that you was like, I'm here, I'm doing what I'm called to do, or were you doing it as a job?
Mark, I was not called from an early day to do anything other than maximize my opportunity. So literally my calling was to give myself the best chance of success I possibly could have. And coming from where I came from, I didn't know what that would look like. And had I set my sights on what I knew, I would have aimed low.
Wow.
Because I didn't know I didn't know any better, right? I mean, at one point I thought, man, I'd like to be a superintendent of schools, because that was the most prestigious job that I could have a line of sight vision to see in my little world, which was a very small bubble of a world. So it's a big piece of why I wrote this book, because I'm not alone. There are so many young people out there that haven't yet seen the world, experienced anything outside of their small bubble that they live in. And that could be inner city Detroit, it could be rural Kansas. But if they don't get outside of that bubble, they're going to aim low.
Wow.
And my objective is to be able to get young people to realize, man, aim high. The sky's the limit. Right. Shoot for the stars. If you miss, you'll still get to the moon.
Right.
Right.
The way you say that is so interesting to me. I feel like my life was probably the exact opposite, in a way of, I didn't know what I didn't know either. I literally had no idea about anything. But I felt like I wanted to aim really high. Like you're saying, like what I didn't know would have made me set the bar low. I'm saying like what I didn't know made me set the bar high. But I'm also saying that was part of my upbringing. And then I'm saying, like, to bridge the whole thing together, I think that the common denominator was still knowledge, right? And what I didn't know made me get into circles so as my bar was raised high, what I was shooting for was the gap between that knowledge and, between that bar and where I was, which was knowledge, which is, you're saying it in reverse. And that's why it's so interesting, because.
But you did the same thing I did.
Correct.
You shot for that space that you didn't know.
Right. It's this space in between.
Yeah. But that's where a lot of people miss that. They are only comfortable with what they know.
Right.
I've got
I
a whole
got you.
chapter on fear in the book because that uncertainty holds people back. They're like, well, I don't know what it's like out there. I don't know
Right.
what that
Great point.
space is. So why
Right.
do I want to work so hard
Right.
if I don't even know what I'm
Ah,
shooting for?
right.
Right. So I'll just not work so hard.
Yeah.
I'll just
Okay.
give up.
Yeah.
And it happens so often, and it's such a waste because it's that space that creates opportunity.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I was telling you before we actually got the podcast starting that the book is inspiring me. Just the idea. It is this kind of holistic approach. It's interesting. You say education, you say knowledge, you say freedom, right? But this it's a holistic approach to that. All three of those words are massive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Knowledge, education,
Yeah.
freedom.
Yeah.
It's like a galaxy in and of itself. And
It, it,
so,
it is. You want to know where it came from?
yes, sir.
So it's kind of a cool story. I was literally walking across campus at Columbia,
Huh.
and I was going back to, I'd been invited to teach a class. And I'm feeling like kind of a little bit of a hot shit. You know, I've got a suit
Ah,
on, I got a briefcase, I'm walking across campus. I'm like, man, I'm going to teach a class at Columbia Business School. I wasn't too far out of school, about 5 years maybe. And I see a kid. He was a brother. He's walking toward me, and he's got a T-shirt on. And his T-shirt said, "Education is freedom."
mm,
And I looked at him, and I was like, "You have no idea. I'm you. You're me."
wow.
I didn't look like him. He didn't look like, but I stopped him literally, shook his hand, and I said, "That T-shirt, I would not be here today, but for that. Education truly changed my life, and this place that you just walked out of changed my life. And I want to thank you because you just made me stop and think." And here's what I did. I went into that class and I told those kids two things, really important things. One, I said, when I was here, I thought it was all about money
Mm,
because that's what you do at business school, right?
yeah.
They drill into your head shareholder value. You got to get on the treadmill, man. You got to go. You got to go. You got to produce and you got to earn. And I thought it was all about money. And I was on that treadmill trying to make as much money as I could. And I saw that kid in that T-shirt and I said, wait a minute. Education isn't about money. Education is about freedom.
Mm,
Money's it's just a way to get there, right? So I told that class, don't be fooled. You're here not to go out and make money.
mm,
You're here to live your best life. And money's an enabler, but it's not the goal. The goal is to have freedom to do what you want to do and to be with who you want to be with and be anywhere in the world doing it. So that was one. The second thing I said to them is I thought I was done. I was walking back in here in the campus thinking, man, I'm back because my education was over when I walked out of this door.
mm,
And I saw that T-shirt and it reminded me, it was like, wait, my degree was a license to learn.
mm.
I've got a license now, but I got to keep learning. So if I want to be successful, if I want to be CEO someday, I got to keep learning.
Mm.
And so I told that class, it's not about money. And you're not done when you leave here. You got a license to learn, but keep learning. And that's the key to freedom, is to keep learning as much as you can. And then you can keep aiming high because there is no limit to what you can accomplish.
That's amazing.
It's a cool story, isn't it?
Yeah, it's doing a lot inside my head right now. And so I'm trying to, was that, when you saw that guy wearing that T-shirt, was that like you in your MBA program as a student, or is that you coming back on campus as a,
That's me coming back after a few years. I think I may have been CFO at 7-Eleven, something like that at that point.
Got it.
It was pretty early in my career.
Got you.
And yeah, it was one of those, literally life-changing moments. And I filed that away. I was like, damn, that's like you said, those 3 words. I mean, that's powerful stuff.
Yeah,
And I just
yeah,
filed that away. And I said, I got to do something with that one day. I'm going to
yeah.
do something with
Ah,
this concept because I need to give other people that experience that I had, that wake up call, even if they don't read my book.
right.
If they just see that title on the shelf and go, yeah, yeah, education really is freedom.
So at that time, it was just filed. At what point did you think you were going to write a book from it? At what point did you think that was going to be the title of your book? Or what point did you think you would write a book?
I,
You're
I,
funny. I swear to
no, it's the same thing, you know. I had no idea I was going to write a book. I didn't
Yeah,
grow up thinking I'm going to be a CEO. I don't know,
right,
none of this
right,
stuff.
right.
But at some point, like I said, I filed it away, and what I first did is not write the book. I was at 7-Eleven, and they were trying to the board was wanting to cut our philanthropic budget.
Got it.
I mean, we were going through a lot of financial, like companies do, ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, all right, well, what can we cut? Let's cut philanthropy. I was
Right.
going, man, we don't give that much now. That's a hard one, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's like it's like what the guys in DC are going through now when they
Right.
try to
Yeah.
cut
Oh, as soon as you
USAID,
said
right?
that, I'm thinking of Doge.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I was I was in that spot going, oh man, how am
Yeah.
I going to explain having to cut this, right?
Right. Sure.
So I was thinking, how could I generate a return on investment on some of this? Because everything we do in business, right? Advertising budget, show me the return. But we never asked for a return on philanthropic dollars.
Right. That's
We did
fair.
some good stuff. I mean, we did Jerry's Kids and MDA and all kinds of good things.
Mhm.
But I said, well, what are we trying to do? We minority programs are really important to us because 7-Eleven represented the community,
Mhm.
and education is really important to us because we need educated employees, we need store managers. What if we go into urban schools where we've got this huge population of minority candidates and we build a pipeline to a job so we can encourage those kids to stay in school and then at least get an associate's degree and if not a 4-year degree and come in, here's a $50,000 a year store manager job.
Got it.
Why not build our own? Let's grow our own employees, right? So that was the idea. I met with an ad agency because they were trying to help us come up with a name for this foundation. And they said, well, why do you want to do this? And I told them the story. I said, well, let me tell you where I came from and that I'm trying to reach kids like me that don't know any better and show them a path to a great career. And I want to go into public schools like I was a public school kid and let them see the opportunities there.
Strong.
And I told them this story about walking across campus one day. And the ad agency said, that's your name. Education is freedom. Call the
What?
foundation. Education is freedom. You'll reach young people with those 3 words.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
This phraseology has showed up for you.
Yeah. Well, that
This
was
is
20 years ago. And in the last 20 years, there's been over 500,000 kids that have come through that program just in
Wow.
Dallas, Texas.
Ooh.
And one of my early founding board members was a guy named Stedman Graham. You may know Stedman. So Stedman, well-known author, speaker, he was helping me get the Education is Freedom Foundation started many, many years ago. He loved the name, introduced me to Oprah. Oprah said, that's my name. I came up with that.
Which name? Education is freedom?
Yeah.
Huh.
Because she said, I used to say that all the time. I said, well, keep saying it. You're fine.
Ah!
But I trademarked it. And so Stedman has been for the last 20 years encouraging me to get bigger with this because we piloted it in a and Dallas public school systems. And, we've done some good things in Texas with it, but we haven't taken it
Yeah.
nationally. We haven't taken it worldwide. So his
Gotcha.
strong advice, like he was on me every week, write the book.
Right.
And so I finally wrote the book, and
Yeah.
it's gone worldwide now. So I've been all over the world. In Australia, I just got back from Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Kuwait, talking about the power of education to change your life.
So strong, man. So freaking strong. I love the journey though. I love where the title came from and how many times it showed up in your life and how you basically said, "Hey, this is my horse. I'm going to ride this thing." And it's gotten you, all over the world. Let's go back to retail America for a little bit. Let's go back to you being the CEO of Blockbuster and 7-Eleven. Those are two different stints. Which one happened first?
7-Eleven first.
7-Eleven first.
20 years at 7-Eleven. Sat in every chair from chief financial officer to chief operating officer to running the retail gasoline business to eventually being CEO.
Did you create college programs at 7-Eleven?
Created this education is freedom program into the pipeline of college. Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
What was one of the biggest things you learned at 7-Eleven?
Oh, I learned so much. But probably the most important was the power of change, the importance of change. That in the book, I've coined an expression that I'd never heard before until I sat down to write the book, and I wrote these 3 words. And it really summarizes the success of 7-Eleven from the beginning. 7-Eleven started in 1927.
Wow.
And they went through a lot of changes, almost went away several times. But they kept adapting. They kept transforming themselves. And so I sat down to write the book, and I had a whole chapter on change, how important it is for us personally, professionally, for the company. And I wrote down change equals opportunity. And I sat back and I looked at those 3 words and I said, well, wait a minute, CEO. Right? Isn't that cool? I mean, just a total coincidence. But the acronym CEO, that's the whole job of a CEO, is to adapt to change. And I learned that at 7-Eleven the hard way because we went through a lot of changes. 7-Eleven was bankrupt in 1991. Some people would have bailed out. Some people would have quit. Right. I stayed at the game, and it ended up being a great opportunity for me personally, that crisis, that change.
Yeah.
And it helped us transform 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven wouldn't have 80,000 stores today.
That's nuts.
But for that crisis, we had to find our way through.
James, while we're here and while we're on education is freedom, right? The world's changed quite a bit from 1990, where toughing things out was a real thing, where elbow grease and grit and getting your fingernails dirty was a real thing, and staying in the fight. You said just now, a lot of people would have quit, a lot of people would have ran, and I learned a lot. I stayed in the fire. If it wasn't for that, there wouldn't be 80,000 locations today. Can you talk to the evolving community of professionals today about what it is to stay in the fight, have grit, grow from the experiences? Because it's not just, great times or run. There's a lot of opportunity in the mud, in the fight. Can you communicate that a little bit?
Oh, I've got so many examples of it, but I'll share a couple. One is that I received a book one time from Warren Buffett, and I had been given an award, and he was congratulating me, and I pulled up in the book I'm flipping through the pages, and I turned to one page. He had a whole chapter dedicated to one thing. And I reached over and I pulled this off of my desk. and I held it up and I compared it to what was in that book.
Mm.
And this is a quote from Calvin Coolidge.
Ah,
It says, "Press on. Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence.
oof.
Talent won't, genius won't. Nothing is more important than persistence and determination and staying in the game," right? This little thing is I just reached across my desk. It's been on my desk since high school. I made this in shop class
Wow.
in high school. I pulled this, what was a poster off the wall at McDonald's, took it to shop class, burned the edges, and put it on this little plaque. I guess it's called decoupage or something like that. And
Ah.
it has, hey, look, you can see the beer tab on the back.
Yeah, I see it.
Literally, this plaque has been on my desk since high school.
Wow.
And if Warren Buffett gave a whole chapter of his autobiography to that one quote from Calvin Coolidge, how important do you think persistence and determination, staying in the fight, getting the mud on your face, how important do you think that is? It's everything.
Wow. A lot of lessons learned in the fire.
Huge lesson. Huge lesson. And then, so I go from 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
And I go to Blockbuster. Now I go to Blockbuster to do a transition, to take it from physical to digital.
Gotcha.
First thing I do is buy a streaming video company. We're set. We had doubled EBITDA, improved the business, increased inventory. Everything's going great.
Hmm.
And then 12 months into my first year, Lehman Brothers collapsed. The international bank market,
wow,
collapsing all around me. General Motors had to get bailed out. Ford had to get bailed out. The whole world's changing. I've got $1 billion of debt on the balance sheet.
Right.
All of a sudden, I have to pivot, change, right?
Right.
I got to go now from transforming the company to rescuing, saving the company.
Wow.
Completely different skill set, completely different actions you have to take.
Sure.
And even I, the champion of change is opportunity, the champion of confidence, right? Even I find myself now doubting, should I quit? Should I give up? I didn't start this fight. What do you think happened?
I think you dug your elbow in, got busy.
Well, here's what happened. God winks moment. I find myself at Bill Gates' house. Random, right?
Super random.
Hey, when you're when you're running big companies, you get to do cool stuff sometimes. So he has a thing called a Microsoft CEO Summit at his house. I go to his house for this event. I'm there getting shrimp at the buffet line, right? At his house. And who's next to me but Warren Buffett?
Crazy.
So I tell Warren, hey, by the way, thanks for that book you sent me.
Yeah.
You know, the coolest thing, I got this little thing, it's on my desk.
Right.
And he goes, yeah, so what are you doing now? And I tell him about Blockbuster. And what do? I start apologizing. I start going, oh, yeah, but, I probably ought to quit. Markets are collapsing around me. I got $1 billion of debt. I don't think I can get it financed. What do you think Warren Buffett said? Looks me in the eye. He goes,
I'm waiting, bating breath.
Yeah. Well, he goes, would you rather be on the sidelines watching somebody else at bat, or would you rather be in the game? I'd rather be in the game. Says, get up there, get back up the plate, dust yourself off. You'll be fine. They need you now.
Wow.
And he was right. Persistence and determination, right? It was what
Yeah.
he and I shared,
Yeah.
that common denominator, that's what got me there. And even I was having those self-doubts. And I had one of those God winks moments where he put Warren Buffett in front of me, of
Ah,
all people,
that's nuts.
to remind me, to give me a kick in the butt and to say, get back in the game. So I went back in the game. I stayed at Blockbuster. I fought the good fight. I fought off those who were trying to keep it, to liquidate it, to force it into bankruptcy and to force a liquidation. I had strategic partners. I had Google. I had Dish Network. I finally got Dish Network to take it across the finish line in a successful restructuring and a sale to Dish Network.
Wow.
But I stayed in the game. I stayed in the fight.
This is, I got so much on my brain. I'm just trying to keep up. Now, of course, while we're here, because I got Warren Buffett over, I wasn't expecting now I got the image of Buffett over here and this lesson over here. And I mean, I'm going to stay with Blockbuster for a second because you took on this job as a CEO. You kind of, whose vision was it to go digital? Because it sounds like you came in and they already were doing that. And then you kind of was the catalyst to kind of get it to come to figure out to get it to come to pass. Yes.
Yeah, they were already doing digital, but in kind of a convoluted way. They were copying Netflix with DVDs by mail.
Got it.
So I didn't see that as digital. I mean, it was online ordering of snail mail DVDs.
Gotcha.
So my objective was, let's first of all save the company, because it was bleeding cash at the time. They were trying so hard to compete with Netflix. They were throwing a lot of money at this other business, DVDs by mail. And I had the opportunity to buy a streaming company.
Got it.
So I bought this company called Movie Link that had 3,000 new releases already digitized and ready to go. Now, this is before anybody was streaming. So it was a bit of a risk to buy this company when kids were doing a little streaming on their Xbox, but nobody was paying for it at that point. So we bought Movie Link, renamed it Blockbuster On Demand.
Oh.
Now we've got something called Total Access that they did create before I got there. Total Access meant DVDs by mail, DVDs in store. Now I had DVDs streaming, or not DVDs, but movies streaming. And we put out a kiosk to compete with Redbox. We had true total access. People said, well, why is this guy from 7-Eleven at Blockbuster? But if you think about it, it was convenient access to media entertainment.
That's it. It's really good.
It's the same business, basically. It was just a different product. And so, so we had a huge competitive advantage versus Netflix. Netflix at that point was still doing DVDs by mail. So what happened? Well, what happened was the financial market collapsed. And we had $1 billion of debt. Netflix had no debt.
What year, real quick, what year did you take that job?
2007.
7.
Yeah.
So you didn't see, at that point, nobody saw the markets collapsing.
No, nobody saw the market collapse.
How was the balance sheet at the time?
Yeah, the $1 billion on the balance sheet was not a big deal in 2007. It was put on the balance sheet in 2004 when Blockbuster went public. It had been a subsidiary of Viacom, the movie studios. They spun it out as a public entity in 2004 and put $1 billion. It was about 2% of EBITDA. So it was a reasonable debt load for the balance sheet. If you do the math, 2004, 5 years, 2009, that was when a third of the debt was due. So they had a big maturity coming up.
Gotcha. Got it.
I could have, and in hindsight, if I had a crystal ball, should have refinanced that debt.
Yeah, I knew you was going to say that.
In 2007. But I waited until our financial performance improved so I'd get a better cost of capital.
What are you going to do? Markets collapse. You were in position. You had no opportunity.
I had no. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. If we had crystal balls, we'd all be perfect. it would make life a
Facts.
lot easier, you know.
Big time. Big time.
But
And so,
what's amusing is those who are on the internet, the armchair quarterbacks that look at it and go, "Wow,
yeah,
Blockbuster didn't keep up with technology."
I love it because the mainstream media has played this thing 7 ways to Sunday. People have created videos. I've had my opinions based on what I've
Oh
heard, no
yeah,
research.
I
And
know.
here you are, the guy who ran it, was in the middle of it, saw it, oversaw it, and navigated it. So you're saying it wasn't that Netflix came in and offered something and you guys said no. That's not, you're laughing. So walk us through this story because it ended up with a sale to um,
Dish Network.
Dish Network,
Yep.
and just walk us through that bridge.
Yeah. So the idea that Blockbuster said no, that actually did happen.
Mhm,
There's a kind of a nasty little meme that they show
mhm.
a conversation between this actor playing Blockbuster and somebody playing Netflix and how that conversation went back in the day. Um, wasn't me, I'm gonna pull the Shaggy, song. It wasn't me.
It wasn't me.
Um,
Wasn't me.
it wasn't me. Um, it happened in the year 2000, which was 7 years before I got there.
Hmm.
And at the time, Netflix was struggling. They were a startup DVD by mail business. Their market cap was less than 50 million bucks. Um, if somebody thinks that it was a dumb idea not to buy them, they should have bought the stock at 70 cents a share.
Yeah, right.
they, they would have done pretty well.
Yeah,
But nobody had a crystal ball. Again, it's easy to
correct.
be an armchair quarterback and look
Yeah,
back.
facts.
So, to this question though of did Blockbuster miss the streaming opportunity? Blockbuster, believe it or not, around the year 2000 partnered with Enron, and they had one of the first streaming ideas that with Enron, they were building a streaming video capability. Now,
Wow.
Enron then had their own issues, they
Yeah,
collapsed, et
sure.
cetera,
Hmm.
and that project got shelved. But Blockbuster, way before Netflix, knew that streaming was coming and was preparing for it. So it wasn't that they didn't keep up with technology at all. And in 2007, we acquired from the studios this entity called MovieLink with all new releases in it. And so we actually had a superior capability to do streaming than Netflix at that time. And had we had the balance sheet, we would have followed through on that strategy. And Netflix might be still doing DVDs by mail.
Huh. Wow.
It's hard to say,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
was not. It was not a Blockbuster didn't keep up with technology. That's not true. And Blockbuster turned down Netflix. Yes, but any rational business person would have made the same decision at that point in the year 2000.
No doubt. How long were you at Blockbuster?
How long was I there?
Yes.
Well, I joined in 2007. As I said, 2008, the whole world collapses. Uh, actually, end of 2008. So 2009, I was in rescue mode. And in 2010, partnered with Dish Network. We took it through a restructuring and sold it to Dish. Now, what everybody else forgets is that Dish Network, ultimately, they're the ones that shut down Blockbuster, not Netflix. Dish decided to do it, and they did it on purpose. They were still competing with Netflix quite well. They had a streaming video capability, they had stores, but Dish was not happy with the streaming experience in the year 2010. We still had a lot of buffering, Wi-Fi wasn't very robust, access was sketchy at best. Smart TVs didn't come out until 2011, 2012. And
Mm.
so the experience for streaming was not great. And Dish
Facts.
decided they were going to button it up and then come back at a later date, which they still may. Never know. Little preview there.
Oh, I like that. I like that jab. That
Yeah.
was good.
But I know nothing.
I got you. I got you. I got you.
And I
So
don't
when
want that to be a soundbite. Jim Key
I
says,
got
"I
you.
know
Hey,
nothing."
listen. Yeah, I got you. We would never do that to the education is freedom guy. But so James, so in all of this though, you know, heck of a journey,
Heck of a
and
journey.
you've got, obviously the core belief of education, right? And was that as thoroughly inside your veins while you were in corporate America? So when you had left corporate America and became, an entrepreneur.
I think it was always there. It From the time I was a kid, somehow I recognized the more I learn, the more I can do. So I've always had that raw curiosity that kept driving me to learn more and learn more. Um, I don't think it was until after I left the corporate world that I really reflected back and realized how important it is. We read all these books about leadership and leadership, servant leaderships, leadership by walking around, leadership by doing this, leadership by doing that. I think if you cut through all the clutter of what leadership is all about, it's all about learning
Hmm,
because change is the only constant in business.
no doubt.
It's the beginning and end of all commerce. Something
Hmm,
changes, somebody responds to the change, and they're compensated for it, right?
right.
Pretty simple. And yet change is hard. People resist it, people are afraid of it. And so, yeah, if you can learn, then you can adapt to any change because change leadership is all about learning to be able to keep up with change.
I love it. I love it. You got some core stuff in you, man. But I do like the fact that it's all woven together. Very much so. And communicated exceptionally well.
Well, thank you. Thank
No,
you.
I appreciate that about you.
Mark, there's just so many lessons that you can glean from these kinds of experiences if you dig deeper. You can't work off of perception
Right.
because perception is what we get every day when we look at a meme on the internet. We go, "Oh, geez," and we tend to believe it. We don't dig any deeper. We walk away with a perception. And it's candidly, as I'm traveling the world now, talking about the book, a lot of what I talk about is the challenge in society today because we're not learning. We are
Mm,
accepting at face value things we
Jesus.
see on the media or in social media. And it's such a travesty because at face value, just take that just one little example, Blockbuster. There's a business school's worth of learning. There's an MBA's worth of learning in the Blockbuster story if someone just digs a little deeper than the surface level perception
Right.
that Netflix kicked their butt.
It's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. I can't. I got. So we're talking. I want to talk about social media right now, because in your stance with a book like this, you're basically social media is probably your biggest adversary slash advocate,
Yeah, tool.
as probably everybody's. But you're basically saying, hey, people aren't taking the same time anymore to dig in. People don't have to.
Right.
People can take stuff at face value, run, and that becomes a whole topic of conversation. And there are people getting paid big money to not dig into anything. So we could surface level this thing to death.
Yep.
But you, sir, stand in a place and say, I will not have that. I will not preach that. I will not consume that. I will not dish that out. I will not educate on that. I'm going to educate on root structures and being able to actually get better by doing the work.
Yep.
And so, how, sir, do you plan to play your part in society with what you know and what you're passionate about and get it through society? Because when I heard you say convenient access to media entertainment, I saw the comparison to 7-Eleven. And now I'm kind of seeing, maybe this is me forecasting for you. convenient access to education, meaning like, how, sir, do you get your message across in a day and time like this?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. We can either look at social media as the enemy or as our friend. And I've learned in this journey, I'm trying to incorporate my own mantra that I've got to keep learning, right? I didn't know anything about social media. Ironically, Blockbuster was one of the first advertisers for Netflix, for not Netflix, for Facebook. So I stood side by side with Mark Zuckerberg in New York City when we announced that Blockbuster was one of 4 early sponsors, first sponsors for Facebook. But all I had is, so I was an early adopter, but I had family and friends on my Facebook account. That's it.
Right.
I didn't have any social media presence. I put the book out. The first thing I did is I hired a 23-year-old to teach me social media. Step 1. That's a big, big step. Step 2, I get introduced to a young man called Jimmy DeMoulin, who created something called School of Hard Knocks. He had less than 1 million followers. I think he's got 50 million followers now.
Yeah.
And my little video that he did and a little interview with me got like 50 million views across all the channels. I'm like, damn, this is powerful stuff. Because of one of those views, I end up with an inbound from Snoop Dogg's son. I start working with Cordell, and his dad takes a picture with my book. And I'm like, wow, put that on social media. I got Snoop reading my book, right? Then I get a call from Beast Philanthropy. A guy named Darren Margolis works for Jimmy and does Beast Philanthropy. And he said, hey, talk to me about this book. You want to partner up? I partner up with Beast Philanthropy, and I have Jimmy Donaldson hold up my book in front of his 280 million followers and said, read this book and post a video online saying why education is freedom. And you can win one of 10 $10,000 scholarships.
Wow.
Best $100,000 I've ever spent in my life. Because I had kids from Beijing to Botswana.
Wow.
All over the world, posting videos, talking about my message, education is freedom, right? So all of these learnings came together, and I'm like, damn, this is where young people live. This is the reason, part of the reason that education is struggling today is we're still teaching the way we did 100 years ago with books and blackboards and a talking head. We've got to use these tools. So I am now petitioning the administration. I had to work it into terms that the administration is comfortable with. So I call it the mega idea. Make education great again. And basically what I'm doing is proposing, if you eliminate the Department of Education, don't forget that we need a federal program for education of some sort, because this is a national issue, that it's a moral obligation we have to our own people. It's a national security issue. It's a democracy issue if we don't have an educated populace. So we got to fix this. And our scores are horrible right now. So why not light up education with technology the same way we've transformed retail, we transform media, we're transforming space. Let's light up every class with what I'm calling the Internet of Ed Tech. Let's bring these tools all together. They're all available. We've got Khan Academy, we've got Google Classroom, we've got LinkedIn Learning. We can take the best algebra teacher in the country and put her into every classroom in America, and let the teacher now be a coach, a supplement to the best teaching practices and the best teacher in the world, in every classroom in the country. We can provide scholarships, micro scholarships, by providing almost a gamification, let kids level up and give them 20 cents a pop when they pass a test that goes into their tax-free account to save up for college. I mean, all of these things are possible with the power of technology. So that's candidly, Mark, that's the mission I'm on right now. I'm carrying the flag saying, guys, we can lead. We can have a JFK moment when he said, we're going to put a man on the moon this decade, not because it's easy, but because it's hard. And we can transform education and make America the greatest education platform in the world, accessible to everybody. You don't have to grow up rich. You don't have to go to a fancy private school. We're going to have the best tools available to everybody. And if we make this work for America, Mark, imagine then letting everyone in the world, now that Starlink is going to be up there and you can light up remote corners of Africa, why not let everyone in the world have access to the highest quality education tools that exist via technology? It's possible.
Remarkable. Remarkable.
We can change the world. We really can. I mean, think about the opportunity that's just available to everybody just to learn. So yes, net, I want to embrace social media. I want to embrace technology and let it be the thing that really does ratchet up human learning at the same pace as machine learning is going to be coming.
That's strong. That's fantastic. I want to hear about this foundation. The Education and Freedom Foundation. What was that? Why was that created, and what are you looking to accomplish with that?
Well, it was created to do exactly what I said, which is reach out to every kid. I think every kid has potential. College may not be for everybody, but opportunity is.
Got it.
And education is the path to opportunity.
Opportunity.
It's as simple as that. So make the opportunity for education available to everybody and encourage them to take advantage of it. It's there for free. It's there for the taking.
And so what is it's the youth then is your target with the Education is Freedom Foundation. The youth is your target, yes?
The youth is the target for the foundation. Yes, the foundation is specifically targeted at middle school, high school to encourage young people to just take advantage of the tools and to maximize their opportunity. But the book is really targeted at a broader audience. I mean, it's for all of us because lifelong learning is pretty important. And this idea of eliminating our perceptions and replacing them with critical thinking and having a broader perspective for society as a whole, it's pretty important.
Love it. I'm really excited about your message, James. Just the fact that obviously it's universal, number one. Number two, it's at the core of anybody and everybody that wants to do something in life. And number three, the way you portray the message, the passion in which it comes from, it's undeniable. I mean, it just bleeds from you, and I love the fact that you're championing your cause, and it's a cause that's really needed right now. The fact that you could stand and say, hey, education is not what it used to be. We're not even getting the education the way we used to, is a bold proclamation. Because in the same sentence of that, you have to acknowledge the fact that the education is just different. I mean, it's faster. It's more innovative. It is reaching, but at what depths?
Yeah.
And you stand for the depths. You stand for the depths of education, and that's a unique, place to live.
Mark. I'm just blessed with an ability to see change in a way that others don't. I mean, we're looking at education today nationally, and we're fighting. We're fighting about teachers' unions. We're fighting about vouchers. We're fighting about class, absenteeism. We're fighting about the immigration and the impact on education. We're fighting about all this stuff. While we're fighting, no one's looking at the future. No one's saying, those are problems of yesterday. Let's come up with a solution for tomorrow. And that's what I'm doing. I'm saying, all that stuff is great. But rather than fight about it politically, Let's come up with a
Right.
solution. And the solution's there. It's already there. We know it. It works. You can take a kid with ADHD. You can take a kid with dyslexia. You can take a kid that's on the spectrum, and you can use technology to change the way we're delivering content to modify it based on the way they're absorbing it and learning
Mm.
it faster. This is machine learning to accelerate human learning. You don't have to be outside of the bell
Mm.
curve anymore. The old days, we had to have standardized everything because it was mass production of an educated workforce
Right.
for the factories,
Right.
basically. It was like we were treating people like Model Ts. We were. As long as you fit in this standardized, normalized curve, right? Then you're fine. But if you're this far outside, you have a little learning
Right.
disability, you're
Right.
screwed.
Right.
Forget
Right.
about it. Good luck. And that's just the way it was. But it was a necessity because we didn't have the
Right.
tools back then. We didn't have the manpower to teach everybody the way they need to be taught. So fine. So we did that for 100 years and it worked for 100 years. Now, for the information age, we have the tools. We can change the way we teach and learn. And it's so critical based on the jobs of the future. We're going to
Mm.
have to do this because AI is going to go really, really deep, which means humanity's got to go really,
Right.
really broad in our knowledge.
Yikes. Speak Life podcast with James Keys, where we're sowing seeds today for tomorrow's harvest. James, last question. The harvest that you're believing for tomorrow. You've sown seeds throughout your life, and this book represents maybe your greatest accomplishment to date, and you're still really digging and creating the foundation of what that's going to be. But what is the harvest you're believing for in the future?
Mark, I believe in the future of humanity, and I put this world on the cover of my book on purpose because I've been blessed with the opportunity to know a number of astronauts. I'm a pilot. I get to see the curvature of the Earth from 40,000 feet. And when I'm up there, I don't see borders. I don't see races. I don't see religions. I see a beautiful planet with humanity that has barely scratched the surface of what's possible for us to come together and to work together and to really experience all that life has to offer. I see education as the way to get there. It's the way to lift us up from perceptions and fighting and wars and all that silliness of the past, eliminate our fears, and be able to elevate us toward a better experience, a better human experience together. I know it sounds almost Pollyannish, but I believe that there's so much more for humanity, and we're on the cusp. We're so close to being able to use these tools to be able to get there. I just want to help accelerate it.
I love it. And your famous words are, live to learn so you can learn to live. Appreciate your
Absolutely.
time, James. It's an honor to do this pod with you, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you better, sir.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate your help in spreading the word. As you can tell, I don't believe this is a book. I think it's a movement, and you're helping me advance the movement. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.